mine was on Wi-Fi, and Chuck just flipped it on the other one and Wi-Fi, so.
Brian did?
No.
No?
Yes, actually, our town board is meeting tonight, so. So he had enough of his own going on.
Busy schedule.
Now I have a copy.
Crazy. Have to, text each other.
How was your day?
Well,
6 years of my life was assistant so it was like, we got to, Sunday night was the night where we sit down there every Sunday. The only for being there. Now she's a counselor again. See each other a lot more.
Yeah.
Jim, the mind is a terrible thing to waste.
Sells cheat sheet. Mental health services. There's not enough healthcare providers.
I'm sure it's right here, right? Did I surrender my old one?
I'm gonna be stuck in a.
Oh, no.
if you can't speak out, for God's sakes.
Did you get a new one? Oh. Oh.
You don't want to remain anonymous?
I just said that curious, that, oh, mine's down in my office behind me.
And I used to tell people, I got to know you.
Should I wear it like on the lanyard in the neck?
Don't wear it out.
I used to have the magnet one, and that one.
So we all wish I remember mine.
Yeah, I always forget.
Really, right now, it's really,
Especially starting out.
I try to do that.
Oh, well, I'll tell you that. Hey, you. Come here. Please.
This is classic.
30 seconds.
Oh.
Well, this is about one of the poorest setup.
It looks like we got
Of the way this is like.
Should be some way to have some.
oops, yep. Shut 'em. It's a good reminder.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to call the organizational meeting of the Chippewa County Board of Supervisors for April 16th, 2024 to order. I'd ask that you all stand with me for the Pledge of Allegiance in a moment of silence. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, County Board organizational items. First item is certification of members. County Clerk Jacqueline Sadler.
I hereby certify that the following persons having received the greatest number of votes for the office of County Board Supervisor in each respective district for which each candidate was a candidate on April 2nd, 2024, are hereby declared to be elected to said office. Supervisory District 1, James Flater. Supervisory District 2, Pamela Goodman. District 3, Dwayne Shoebridge. District 4, Peter Gehring. District 5, Darren Kirby. District 6, Timothy Gato. District 7, Jason Bergeron. District 8, James C. Erickson. District 9, Joel Seidlitz. District 10, Matthew Peterson. District 11, Karen Lotz. District 12, Charles Bomar. District 13, Joseph Rochelle. District 14, David Kelly. District 15, Lee Hennick. District 16, Rocky Kempe. District 17, George E. Romeyer Jr. District 18, Brian Flynn. District 19, Chuck Hall. District 20, Dean Mueller. District 21, Carrie Ives.
Item number 2, training on Meridia Easy Vote System. Jacqueline Sadler.
All right, so in front of you, we're gonna go through a couple items first. In front of you on your desk, you had a folder. It was either green, yellow, or orange. And inside there is some different forms and paperwork we'll go through today. One thing you'll see in there is the certification of the election for you specifically. That's something you'll wanna hang on to. You also will see your official oath in there. Judge Isaacson will be up in just a little bit to administer that oath, but you'll have it there in front of you so you can have it so you don't have to just remember what he's telling you. And then, like I said, we'll go through some of those other forms that are in there. And before I go through the exact presentation on how to use the voting system, something to know about the room, especially we have a lot of new members today, is you don't see a microphone on your desk. The microphones are in the ceiling, so they will pick up as you speak. One thing to remember is that if you are talking up here or whispering here, it still goes through the microphone and can be heard in the back, but it also will go to the live stream on the YouTube video. So keep that in mind as you are talking either a little bit before the meeting, right after the meeting, or even during the meeting. Also, if you are clicking pens, rustling paper, you might be up here, but it amplifies to the people in the back because it comes through the speaker. So try to be a little respectful of that. I think that's all in there. So we will start with the voting system. It is called the Meridia Easy Vote System. And on your desk, you will see a little remote there. I know the writing is kind of small on there, but you'll see there's just 10 buttons on there. Actually, there's 11 if you count the little delete button. You will mostly be using the green button, the red button, and the yellow button. You'll use the green button for voting. If you're voting in favor of something, a yes. The red button will be your no button, so if you're voting against something. If you wish to abstain, then that would be your yellow button. We will also use the green button for roll call, and we'll show you that here in a minute. And then also if you want to speak on an item, you'll push the green button. The screen will say if you want to speak in favor, press green. If you want to speak against, push red. We don't do it that way here, just always use the green button so then it puts you in the order so the chair knows who to recognize and when they should speak or let you speak. So we are going to look through and do the roll call. Fell asleep real quick. All right, with the roll call. Sorry, guys, there's a lot of screens and you can't see all of them. I don't know why it's not working. Well, we'll just go through the presentation while it tries to figure out what it's doing. Oh, you know what? have it on the screen now. So on your remote, if you will push your green button, but what you're gonna notice is if your remotes have fallen asleep because you haven't used them. So if it doesn't work right away, just give it a minute and then push it and aim it at me. You'll see that later here in the presentation, but the receiver is up here at the desk. It's not the screen. So it looks like everyone but Matt. So you'll see that as you vote or check in, it will go from gray to blue. And so on our presentation screen over here, you can see that's what it looked like as you guys were pushing the buttons. If you look at the screen way over on the side there, you'll see it says pink, or it's blue. And on the top there, it says total 21, so it shows that all of you have voted. And then when the chair gives me permission, I can close the vote. And then it will show you that, yes, all 21 supervisors are here. If someone was gone, it would show that they were not here. But when we're voting, again, if you use the green, it will show yes. And then if you voted no, it would be in red. And then you can see the vote total is on the top. And when we're voting, again, it will show, it changes as everyone votes. So then we know who has voted, who has not. You will not see the results of the vote until after everyone has voted. So a few tips and tricks that we have learned, and honestly, I learned some of them just very recently when I changed all the batteries in all of them, is that your remotes fall asleep. And if you look at your remotes, you can see it right here. There's a little bar that shows kind of like the battery. When that is showing up there, it's trying to connect to the base. Once that goes away, you can vote. But if your screen is completely blank, it has fallen asleep. So if you're pushing the one right away, thinking you're voting, it's still waking up. So that's why the vote's not going through. So give it a minute, a few seconds. That goes away, then you can vote. Once you see the R, then it's ready to go. I practice and practice, but still it's this. Doesn't always like. So is there any questions? Green is yes, red is no, yellow is abstain. Pretty. That part is, this part sometimes. It's not, because what you can't see is on my one screen here is 3 different screens that I'm bouncing back and forth on. So that's why I asked for that.
Is that the roll call then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Would you like me to tell you that? There's 21 supervisors present.
Thank you. Item number 4, oath of office. At this time, I'd ask Judge Isaacson to administer the office.
First of all, congratulations, folks. Although sometimes you're going to wonder why I did this, right? I have 20 or 21 oaths of office here to give tonight. We can do this one of 2 ways. I can say the oath to you 21 times, or we can do it once. And then as we go through the process tonight, step out in the hall with me and I'll notarize your signature. I'd prefer the latter, but if anybody wants to really punish me and the rest of you, we can do one at a time. No county board chair yet, so I can make the call, I guess, all right? All right, we're gonna do it one time. In your folder is the form that I'm gonna follow. So please raise your right hand. Do you want me to stand up or not? Please stand up and raise your right hand. I, having been elected to the office of County Board Supervisor,
Having been elected to the Board of Supervisors,
but have not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
but not yet entered upon the duties thereof,
swear or affirm that I will support
swear or affirm that I will support
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
the Constitution of the State of Wisconsin,
and will faithfully discharge the duties
and faithfully discharge the duties
of said office to the best of my ability.
of said office to the best of my ability.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Thank you. Now, I have those, I think, in the same order as the precincts. Districts. So, Mr. Flater, if you want to come out first, I will notarize yours and put a seal on it, all right?
You will need to sign in the middle of your page. I don't know if he wants you to sign it in front of him because he's notarizing your signature, but just know that that's where you're gonna sign, is in the middle of the page.
No, it's just clunky. Better than 21 times.
Just so you know, we will have to wait because we can't really move on because the next parts will be voting, so.
Mine looks like this.
Like a doctor's signature?
By the door already.
Yeah. Dwayne, if you can kind of start lining up and then we. Here you were.
No, I got
Pete, you'll be after Dwayne, because you're out of order. I'm not the judge, I can't say you're out of order.
fairly
You can try.
How about you?
I work on industrial air gases.
Big one.
And small. I've worked almost like the biggest I've ever worked on a school house. Let's do like spectrum.
talk about these. Rasmussen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is he still?
No, he's done. He retired. He's kind of slowly getting out of it a couple years ago.
Did he ever tell you his past history on it? We had him over here in Stanley. I was asking him, what did you do before this?
Maryland, I mean.
It was down in,
I mean, if you wanna go
down
first.
south. And I said, why'd you ever get out of that? And he said, housing.
Yeah, so they put a time in the system, so then that way it's right on there, so then it. I can send
Now we have the tedium of government.
then it.
Sure, he had a little
And I think
things
it's
levered.
Sure. Good guy, real nice guy.
I told him I'd stop.
Get rid of that. Get it to go away.
Kicked off in half.
Voting screen.
The workers that person.
He knew how to work with people.
Yeah,
You know, it wasn't just.
Takes 12 teams.
sometimes a lost art. The number after being my guy and say, that's a fun course out there.
You can get you some.
Was at the library instead.
It's a tough one.
Especially if you're not feeling good.
We started
I like it
pulling the
though.
ceiling down in the basement.
Then you just gotta stand.
Is there a way that we can actually fit that in the wires?
Wire nuts on it. This ain't a problem.
Forever, just floated.
Yeah, I knew that.
Just floated, it had an extension.
Yeah. There you go.
I remember
Oh,
opening
so,
my head.
yeah, especially in the city. That would
Just
be
to-
older.
Just being new.
Eric says,
And then you don't need that one. The judge had.
Same copies.
He's got the copy.
I bought a new driver's ed.
Yeah, it's more official.
I'm a new.
Second day I got the
He's got the official copy.
I was like, geez, did I invest in this still?
Yep, you and Drew. But I think you're only one part, I
And I
think.
made a. Did you ever hear from Joe Claus? So then we were.
I called
I said, what? I'll try any course there. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I looked it up.
But less than desirable in his.
It's very confident, man.
Exactly.
Yes. I gathered that.
Yeah. And I don't know how far into that.
He's convinced he's the grown-up on the road.
Whichever.
No, I haven't met him face to face yet. So I'm sure
Brother's
some-
name Jeff.
some soon,
Dad is
hopefully,
named
but-
Jeff. So.
Had a grandson.
30 years ago.
Grandson. He's got like a southern accent. Text that she was going to deliver. And then
Suddenly there was a four-candidate race.
James Andrew Jordy was
Must have been probably his third or fourth term.
Gotta go make it official.
Beef?
No turning back now.
fourth grandchild I know named after me.
Oh, way to go.
Yeah, but I heard, what's a nice name? My name.
She told me to
Herself.
Yeah.
had a couple.
Like you wouldn't belong to a club that had you for a member, right?
Tough business to get into. Tough business to get into.
No, I really wish they would. Right now. First line just right.
Kind of take on.
Right. 3 and 4% everything, so.
Opportune time.
After I'm there for a while.
Yeah,
My mother was a war bride from Northern
That's what I'm
Ireland.
selling out of.
And you ever,
When you have lunch every other day, do they just like take that off the price and then you get on it?
Sure.
friends?
It would take me quite a while to
Used to
get
be a lot of lunches.
Yeah, she would say,
I guess.
You got the time freedom.
Singing,
yeah, and that's just tough.
Just
They
wasn't
just,
right.
I don't know, right?
Oh, sorry.
Formal given names and then nicknames,
Yeah,
who they
oh,
come
God.
from, which tone of voice.
Yeah. C plus.
And you know,
Go.
You're stuck now.
No, I don't think I have any snacks.
we had a, phone the theater, that's when it was standing, which is cooperating.
Yeah, I know there is.
The dad, he started all, it was called Muzzy. Muzzy.
Almost your turn, Carrie.
And I remember one day somebody came in the store looking for Daniel Westland.
Oh, yeah. Yours is out of order.
You know that name's familiar.
You're next.
They finally said, I think that's Muzzy's name.
I know.
The guy at our church was on ball. His name was Lowell, but in our group, it was like Tim. But I was, so we were, the thing is that now it depends on where he's at. He's known by different names. He has 3 different names, and they're all active, depending on what group he's in. How do you keep it straight? I work for a couple departments, so it's gonna be Tim no matter what.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, I got my own guys.
Mr. Flynn.
His name is Lowell.
Right. It's the judge and the sheriff. all day.
See, if I could have gone by my middle name, that'd be, middle name is George. So that's actually worse than Dwayne, so I had to stick with it. Oh, I read that.
The life. I really want the audio version.
Fine, however.
But you don't write your first and your last name, and then you write all your acronyms behind your last name.
Oh. We don't need all of those,
Oh, okay.
but if it makes you feel better. Almost.
Yeah.
Like it back when. Yeah, way back when. Still, to this day, I followed it. Like it either, so.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be.
Yep. Everything. Someone.
There's a couple people in the restaurant.
It's the first time, but I used to be a boat clerk.
I know those are.
Yeah.
Imagine how much you can hear this.
You really punish yourself.
Figure, hey, somebody's gotta do it.
Into mine.
Gotta be me, your turn now too.
Todd ate it.
We done?
I think, is everyone back? Yep.
Okay. We'll move on. Item number 5, approval of the agenda.
Oh.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
Supervisor Flater so moves.
Supervisor Hall, second.
Supervisor Flater has made the motion to approve the agenda, and it's been seconded by Supervisor Hull. Any discussion? If there's no further discussion, please vote by pressing green for yes or red for no.
Just wait.
It's that patience thing.
Right.
Yep.
Doesn't seem particularly slow tonight. I got a cup of coffee in it before it got.
For some reason, it's pulling my training one. You can vote now. Yeah, the vote. 21 yes, 0 no.
Motion passes. Item number 6, election of chair. Okay. Before we get started on this, I just want to walk you folks step by step through how we're going to be doing things tonight. First, I will take nominations for the seat of chair. Remember that you do not need permission to speak before making a nomination. You can speak aloud, but one at a time, please, so that we're able to record them. You may nominate yourself. Nominations do not require a second. Once nominations have been recorded, each nominee will have the opportunity to come up to the podium, make a statement to the board not to exceed 5 minutes, should they wish to do so. If there are multiple nominations, we will determine order for making statements by drawing nominee names out of a box. At that time, I will ask for 2 volunteers who have not been nominated and who have not nominated a supervisor to assist in drawing nominee names out of the box to determine statement order and to assist later in collecting the ballots that have been cast. Once all statements have been concluded, each supervisor will vote for their selection by secret ballot. A secret ballot will also be used for the seat of vice chair. Once all ballots are collected, I will read the name of the person voted for on each ballot out loud to the clerk. And you are welcome to use the blank tally sheets that have been provided to you to follow along. Election to the seats of chair, vice chair, and the 3 at-large executive committee members require a majority of the votes cast of those supervisors present. So there are 21 present. A majority would require 11 votes. Once both the chair and the vice chair are elected, the chair and the vice chair will take their seats at the dais. Following the election of the 3 at-large executive committee members, the chair will conduct the remainder of the meeting. Of course, with our assistance if needed. So we'll wash, rinse, repeat the same process for the election of the vice chair. Are there any questions before we begin?
On your table or desk, you'll see there is a stack of blank pieces of paper with a paper clip. The blank pieces of paper will be what you use for your chair and vice chair votes. Then the other small stack of papers will be when we get to the executive committee votes.
Anything else? Any more questions? Okay, seeing no questions, we will take nominations for the seat of chair.
I'd like to nominate Dean Mueller, Lee Hennig, Super District 15.
I'd like to nominate Chuck Hull.
Any more nominations? Any more nominations?
Nominate Jim Slater.
Any more nominations? Hearing none, nominations for chair are now closed. Supervisors Mueller, Hull, and Flater, who has declined, have been nominated for chair. Do any of the nominees wish to make a statement to the board prior to voting? Supervisors Hull and Mueller. At this time, I'd ask for 2 volunteers who are not nominated to assist with drawing names out of a box to determine the order for making nominee statements and later to collect the ballots once votes are cast. Supervisor Erickson, Supervisor Ives. Supervisor Ives?
Supervisor Mueller.
So Supervisor Mueller will speak first, and Supervisor Hull will speak second. Supervisor Mueller, the podium's yours.
Pardon me?
The podium is yours.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you all for being willing to serve. My name is Dean Mueller. I am not a native of Wisconsin. I'm a transplant. I came from a little hick town called Fargo, North Dakota. Might have heard of it. Anyway, I was involved in law enforcement 25 years up there, and on my squad card always said to protect and serve. I still live by that motto today. I spent the last 2 years learning where all the moving parts are in the county government system. So at this time, I am willing to serve as your chair, and I look at it as service, not some, being a big shot or something, but I know I'm here to serve not only you, but the citizens of this county. And I will do my best to continue the responsible leadership that has been shown, and I will also try to be as the best steward possible of not just the public trust, but the public finances, because it's their tax dollars that help us do what we do. And we, been blessed with a great finance director. We currently have, I think we have one of the lowest tax levies in the state. I'd like to see it stay that way. Anyway, there are issues coming down the pike. We've seen a few of them over the last several months. We're going to have some challenges, and we're going to have to face them together. We might all have different ideas on how to approach it, but I believe at some point we'll all be able to come to a resolution that is in the best interest of our citizens. And again, that's where my purpose lies, is in serving the citizens. Like I say, I take that very seriously. Thank you very much.
Supervisor Hull.
I would just like to repeat what Dean had said about, thanking you for all your service and everything. And my speech would just be more about, if I were voting for a chairman of an organization, what I would look for is two main things. The first thing would be experience. And next would be how you can conduct meetings. Because I think the purpose of the chair is to facilitate the board to do its thing, go its direction, and make things work, and the board makes the decisions. The chair doesn't drive where you go. The chair should not have an agenda, and I'm very firm on that. And I would address the experience thing. I've been lucky to be a member of this board for 8 years, and lots of committees you get assigned to, but the standing committees are the ones you understand more and know who's working here and understand how the finances go, what they do. And I've been blessed. I've been on planning and zoning for 8 years, both as chair and vice chair, which gives you a real intimate view of how the planning and zoning works, how that part of the government runs. Then another term, I got to be on the, other than planning and zoning, the legal and law, I got on that for 2 years, which is a really insight to how that operates. And for some reason, I was chair of that, which was interesting. And you get to find out all the things that are going on there, and then you get reassigned onto another committee to get you insight of what's going on. So the experience I have here for 8 years, I think, is valid to understand that. Plus, I didn't get any human resource committees, but I've been on the math task force now for 4 years. So I've learned to meet those people, see what they do in there, and it gives you a broad insight of what's going on. So I believe that experience gives you a really clean snapshot of all the county operations, how broad they are. You'll never understand them all. And we make decisions on all that. So having a leader that has seen those and been a part of that, I think, is very important. And then the other is running meetings. I think it's very important that the Roberts Rules of Order is good for people to understand what the leader really needs to know, keep a meeting going, be able to have the inputs coming, understand what the rules are. And I was blessed. I'd had 16 years on the Chippewa City Council, and Attorney Ferg there was just a real, he would not let us vary, so we really have that into us. So most committees I've ended up being on here, you end up being parliamentarian because of that. And I think I've affected the county board some with how we go into closed sessions when I came here, organizing everything. And I think that's extremely important for a leader, and having the leader that can just pull that up and keep it in order. And I think that's one of the strengths that I bring with that. And again, the leader needs to allow the board to do its decision-making, have the discussions, and the board makes the decision. The leader does not drive where you go. The leader leads and allows the board to do its thing. And that's what I got. Thank you.
Okay. The nominees have made their statements, so I believe we're ready to vote. This time, if you could write the name of the individual you're voting for on the blank piece of paper provided. Does anybody need any more time? Okay, if everyone has voted, if I could have Supervisor Ives and what was my Supervisor Erickson collect the ballots, please.
See, that's okay.
So I don't.
Okay.
Good job.
No election.
So you can supervise. Okay, the votes for chair are Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Mueller.
Yes.
Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Hall. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Hall.
Ten. Every time.
Oh, there's one more.
Oh,
I did that on purpose.
Lawyer gets a sense of humor all of a sudden.
The last vote is Supervisor Hall.
so I show 11 votes Supervisor Hall, 10 votes Supervisor Mueller.
That is what I show as well. Supervisor Hall carries the vote. Congratulations. Item number 7 is election of the vice chair.
You have a separate tally sheet if you're interested in your.
There are nominations for the seat of vice chair.
I nominate Dee Mueller.
Any more nominations?
I nominate Jason Bergeron.
I'll decline. Thank you, though.
Any more nominations?
I nominate Supervisor Gehring.
Any more nominations? Hearing none, nominations for vice chair are now closed. Supervisors Mueller, Gehring, and Bergeron, who has declined and been nominated. Do any of the nominees wish to make a statement to the board prior to voting? Supervisor Gehring, any of the other nominees? Supervisor Gehring, the podium's yours.
For those of you that don't know me, my name is Pete Gehring. I supervise District 4. I'm not going to stand here right now and campaign for this position. I would like to talk about the decorum of this body of supervisors. The seriousness of what we're undertaking this year, next 2 years. I think it needs to be said that politics need to be put aside. Special interests needs to be put aside. Special agendas need to be put aside. And we need to act on the behalf of our constituents and the county as a whole. We need to be able to have friendly discussions. We need to be able to have compromises. If we can't do any of these things, we're as dysfunctional as our federal and state government. We're above that. This is a starting point for a lot of us. It's our opportunity to show the constituents of Chippewa County that we can operate on their behalf. Thank you.
Okay, I believe we're ready to vote. So again, please write the name of the individual you're voting for on the blank piece of paper provided to you. Anybody need any more time? Okay, I'd ask Supervisors Erickson and Ives to collect the votes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, the votes for vice chair are as follows. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Mueller. 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 Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Gehring. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Mueller. Supervisor Gehring.
Mueller, 11, Gehring, 10.
You as well. Supervisor Mueller carries the vote. Congratulations, Supervisor Mueller. Okay, item number 8 is election of 3 large executive committee members. The process for nominations and election of the 3 at-large executive committee members will be much the same as for chair and vice chair, with the following exceptions. Unlike the election of chair and vice chair, statements made by nominees for the exec committee will not be permitted. Ballots will not be secret. Each supervisor may vote for up to 3 supervisors from the nomination list and must sign their ballot. Any ballots that are not signed will not be counted. Once all ballots are collected, I will read the names of the supervisors voted for on each ballot out loud to the clerk. And if the votes result in any at-large seat not receiving a majority of the votes of those supervisors' presence, we'll just vote again to fill in any remaining at-large seats. Any questions? Okay. Are there any nominations for at-large seats on the executive committee?
Jason Bergeron.
One at a time, please. Repeat those.
Plater nominates Jason Bergeron.
Goodman nominates Supervisor Ives.
Ives nominates Supervisor Bomar.
Mueller nominates Supervisor Seidlitz, I'm sorry. I don't say your last name very often.
Supervisor Bergeron nominates Supervisor Gehring.
Supervisor Shoebridge nominates Supervisor Kirby.
Supervisor Kirby will nominate Supervisor Shoebridge.
Any more nominations? Hearing none, nominations for at-large seats on the executive committee are now closed. Supervisors Bergeron, Ives, Bomar, Seidlitz, Gehring, Kirby, and Shoebridge have been nominated for the 3 at-large seats on the executive committee. So, ready to vote?
And again, you should have a separate piece of paper that has for the executive committee votes, and make sure that you sign your name on that as well. We will need another volunteer since Supervisor Ives was nominated. She nominated someone, yes. Supervisor Lotz is raising her.
Does anybody need any more time? Ask Supervisors Erickson and Lotz to collect the votes. Everybody make sure they're signing their ballots, please. Results of the votes are Bergeron, Gehring, Seidlitz. Bergeron, Ives, Gehring. Bergeron, Omar, Seidlitz. Bergeron, Ives, Seidlitz. Seidlitz, Shoebridge, Kirby. Kirby, Shoebridge, Seidlitz. Bergeron, Gehring, Omar. Bergeron, Ives, Omar. Bergeron, Omar, Gehring. Gehring, Omar, Kirby. Seidlitz, Kirby, Shoebridge. Bergeron, Ives, Omar. Bergeron, Gehring, Kirby. Bergeron, Ives, Omar. Sorry. Ives, Omar, Bergeron. Omar, Bergeron, Ives. Seidlitz, Shoebridge, Kirby. Kirby, Seidlitz, Shoebridge. Seidlitz, Gehring. Seidlitz, Kirby, Shoebridge. Seidlitz, Kirby, Shoebridge. 12, I'm sorry. Yes. Does this match up? Yeah.
Bergeron, 12 votes. Ives, 7. Bomar, 9. Seidlitz, 11. Gehring, 7. Kirby, 9. Schubert, 7.
Based on the results, Supervisors Bergeron and Seidlitz have a majority of the votes. So 2 of the 3 members we have will need to vote again then for the remaining member. So just as a reminder, there's 3 spots on the sheet. We're only voting for 1 spot, so there's only 1 vote. And as a reminder, the clerk will read the remaining nominees.
It'll be Supervisors Ives, Bomar, Gehring, Kirby, and Schubert.
Remember to sign your ballot. Does anyone need any more time? The results of the vote are Shoebridge, Kirby, Omar, Shoebridge, Shoebridge, Gehring, Ives, Omar. Ives. Kirby. Ives. Gehring. Ives. Omar. Gehring. Omar. Gehring. Kirby. Omar. Gehring. Shoebridge.
Supervisor Ives, 4 votes. Supervisor Bolmar, 5 votes. Supervisor Gehring, 5 votes. Supervisor Kirby, 3 votes. Supervisor Shoebridge, 4 votes.
So nobody received a majority, so we'll vote again. Remember to sign your ballots, please. Yes.
distribution.
The results of the votes. Gehring. Omar. Omar. Kirby. Shoebridge. Ives. Gehring. Gehring. Omar. Gehring. Gehring. Ives. Ives. Shoebridge. Omar. Gehring. Shoebridge. Shoebridge. Omar. Omar. Gehring.
Supervisor Ives, 3. Supervisor Bomar, 6. Supervisor Gehring, 7. Supervisor Kirby, 1. Supervisor Shoebridge, 4.
There's not a majority of votes for any of the nominees, so we'll vote again. You might want to shake the extras over. Doesn't matter, we did this.
Be done, that's all I got left for receipt. That was only one process.
We don't have our ballots. Yeah, we got one to go.
Use the blank paper then.
Yeah.
When you're number one.
Okay, the results are Gehring. 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 Omar. Gehring. Omar. Gehring. Omar. Gehring. Gehring. Shoebridge. Shoebridge. Gehring. Gehring. Omar. 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 Shoebridge. Omar. Omar. Shoebridge.
Supervisor Ives, 0. Supervisor Bomar, 8. Supervisor Gehring, 9. Supervisor Kirby, 0. Supervisor Shoebridge, 4.
I know you guys are tired of me saying this, but Don't have a majority for any of the nominees, so we get to do it again.
Thank you. Good stuff. We're just everyone. Yeah, really. I've stayed consistent, so. Yeah, I don't know. You can maybe skip.
Okay, the results are Gearing, Gearing, Omar, Omar, Gearing, Gearing, Omar, Omar, Gearing, 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 Omar, Gearing, Gearing, Omar, Shoebridge, Shoebridge, Gearing, Shoebridge, Gearing, Gehring.
Supervisor Ives, 0. Supervisor Bomar, 6. Supervisor Gehring, 12. Supervisor Kirby, 0. Supervisor Schubert, 3.
So the 3 at-large members of the executive committee are Bergeron, Seidlitz, and Gehring. Congratulations. Would the chair and the vice chair come up this time and take their place at the dais? Probably now is the appropriate time to take a 5-minute break if everybody's okay with that, and we'll continue with the agenda in 5 minutes.
You sure will. You still get to vote.
I'll grab my partner there.
Oh, yeah. He needs this. You can leave your name tags back.
Here you go, Chuck.
Not that I.
No, that probably.
No, but you still got to vote.
Oh.
I asked her.
Never mind, you're right.
No problem.
Oh, no. Well, but like when you do a call or when here doesn't.
Yep, here it's all going to be with.
The city
Yep.
matters of roll call.
And
And
we do, but,
well,
yeah.
here it's always shown. Essentially, it's a roll call every time. Thank you.
Ready to order. Ready to order pizza.
Thanks, man.
No.
There was
Peter. Todd's a lucky guy.
Well,
So there are certain things. Certain
so welcome aboard. You know.
last time.
Well, I think
So that if things aren't, if they know last year's
yeah, well, but I can sure shoot my mouth off.
me, I just ask questions.
there's a need.
Parliamentary. Ken's going, we're not talking about dogs.
This is where we all gotta be paid.
Man, that type.
Well,
I was actually gonna start seeing it pretty quick, but got this weekend and took it. So, trying to keep
bring our name tag.
At least, give us permission to drop out after our.
Those are,
I think it's so good.
I forget where they're all.
I know.
Mike's and Steve, they kick in, start talking loud.
Race trail there, and some food trucks.
Try to go through this.
I've got tinnitus.
And I get accused covering everything.
It was just Randy Corner.
I should have said that.
It was in a, remember?
Right here. Way wrong. They just read one.
Yeah.
That's it, right?
Yep.
I've talked to you before.
You can use that if you want to like point the red pointer. Got it.
I'm an old school.
Would you like overhead projectors?
Yeah.
I got some and at work, so I can use. I know.
Do you really use it?
Clear sheet.
I think we have some. Yeah, I finally threw that away. Like, I think we still had some of the sheets.
Yeah. Well, then I got a smart board, so then I scanned things in and put it up on.
And that's tonight, I don't know how late I'm gonna stick around, I guess. I got an email Monday that,
You're great, Grandpa.
administrative
So a year ago.
enforcement conference in Hayward, right? When we had the sheriff's conference in Hayward in December. And basically, they had replicated from Tuesday and Thursday of this law enforcement administrators conference at this company called Calvert Press.
Oh, Chuck's the
Administrative law enforcement, basically how to handle more votes than I expected. Your veteran ways that
gladly give that up.
this way for a very long period of time, and how to handle the people coming in with new ideas and want to do things differently. And I'm like, what a perfect topic for me to go learn about. So.
You got that golf league up there?
Tomorrow night.
It's been a lot of years since I played animal.
I thought I got up early to get that text every morning. They've been out in the yard to beat me up.
Honestly, I enjoy playing.
Sunny even all the way up to
It's a good group. It's all older guys. You know, well, we got young guys too, but they're laid back. You know, club length, they'll give it, you know, whoever you're shooting against. Yeah.
So we golf. We're not
Yeah.
ESPN.
It's like, yeah, we're making money on
No big trophies or money on the thing, you know. No.
you know, and you sometimes you get these guys.
The city of Chippewa,
Giving them,
they asked them to give us more parking stalls.
he's not reciprocating, so pretty soon they cut him.
Okay, please, we have your attention, please.
Goes like, oh, this goes two ways.
We'll move on to continue on with our agenda with the, we'll learn what parliamentary procedure is. To some of us that know it, I know it very well. I've known it for a really long time, and every time I go through this, I learn a lot more. And so hopefully we'll get the basics of it, and so we have an orderly thing and get what you can out of it, and let's learn.
So after all that, this is just what the doctor ordered, right? Parliamentary procedure, you know. Good evening, everyone. For those of you who haven't yet had an opportunity to meet, my name is Todd Pauls. I'm the Corporation Counsel for Chippewa County. I have the privilege of covering the exciting topic of parliamentary procedure with you this evening. In addition to being the legal advisor to the board, my job duties also include being parliamentarian for the county board. Just some background on me. I've worked in the Corp Counsel Division for 16 years, coming up here at the end of April. 12 of those as an assistant corporation counsel and the corporation counsel since 2020. I'd like to congratulate all of you, either as newly elected or returning board supervisors, and I look forward to working with all of you. For some of you, this may be the first time attending a board meeting of any sort. So before I begin, I'm just wondering if I could get a show of hands for any of you that have been, those who are newly elected board members have been exposed to parliamentary procedure either through being a member of a town board, a village board, any nonprofit organization. This gives me a good idea. Okay, quite a few of you actually. That's great. Regardless of that, though, for those of you who are newly elected and wondering why we're learning parliamentary procedure, since this isn't English Parliament or British Parliament, I'm hoping that this will be beneficial. And then also for those of you who are returning for another term and still wondering why we're learning parliamentary procedure, since this isn't Parliament, maybe the second time here is a charm. So I'm going to try to get you through this. You know, I know that was a long procedure there, so and we've got several other speakers, so I'm going to try to get through this as efficiently as possible. Just a couple of housekeeping items here. As Corporation Counsel, I work out of the Corporation Counsel Division of the Department of Administration, as you can see, and we currently have one Deputy Corp Counsel, James Sherman. He's been with the county since 1998, so he has a wealth of institutional knowledge here. And then Deb Blevins is our Corporation Counsel Legal Assistant, and she's been with us for approximately 9 years. I'm also happy to say that we're currently recruiting for a second Deputy Corporation Counsel at the moment, so that's exciting. It's been a little difficult, but hopefully we'll have that wrapped up fairly soon. And I just want you all to know that I'm always willing to discuss and try to answer any questions on parliamentary procedure that you may have. So always feel free to email me, call me, or just pop your head in our office. Both Jim and I are more than willing to sit down with you. Okay. Just one last thing before we get started. I'm more than willing to, following the presentation, to answer any just general questions you might have based on the presentation. I just ask that any hypothetical or fact-specific questions that either email, call me, or pop in, and I'd be willing to sit down and work through those fact-specific questions with you. We're a little short on time tonight, so. Okay, so enough ado. My goal tonight is to do 4 things. One of those is to explain what parliamentary procedure is, what its purpose is, to acquaint you with certain parliamentary procedure terminology, to provide you with basic info, and most of all, provide you with the basic information you need to get through a meeting. So what is parliamentary procedure law? It's the terms, it is the rules and precedents governing the proceedings of deliberative assemblies. That's how the Webster Dictionary defines it. Historically, it was the name given to the rules and customs for carrying on business in the English Parliament. And the purpose or the goal of parliamentary procedure is to facilitate the smooth functioning of the assembly and to provide a firm basis for resolving questions of procedure. Okay, so as I mentioned already, some of you might be thinking, you know, this isn't Parliament, this is Chippewa County Board, why the need for formal rules of procedure? And, you know, I guess I've made a feeble attempt at humor here, and I can never remember jokes, so I have to resort to cartoons. But I think maybe the cartoon probably reflects some of the questions you may be asking in your mind. So we've got a chairperson who's saying a motion has been made. Do we dispense with the pompous formalities of parliamentary procedure and communicate like human beings? Does anyone second that motion? Hopefully we'll change that with you as time goes on. You become more comfortable with parliamentary procedure. It'll just become second nature for you. Sources of parliamentary procedure. There's principally 4 sources. One is the Chippewa County Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2. Second is Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised, and they're currently in the 12th or 13th edition. I don't recall which, but that's cited as RONR. There's also the Wisconsin statutes in the Constitution. And just a reminder that the county ordinances, our county board rules adopt Roberts rules as long as the Roberts rules are consistent with our county board rules. If they're not, then the county board rules are what prevail and what's applied. And then also, if the Wisconsin statutes and Constitution conflict with the county ordinances, in that situation, then the Wisconsin statutes and Constitution would apply. And I just want to point out that as we talk about the rules of order, they specifically apply to board meetings, but not necessarily to committee meetings in all instances. And what I mean by that is that committees generally are a smaller body, so parliamentary procedure is generally, in some respects, more relaxed at the committee level. I'd strongly recommend that you review Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances to familiarize yourself with the rules. And again, if questions come up when you're doing that, don't hesitate to call me or come in and see me. And you can find a link to the Code of Ordinances on the county's homepage. There's a link there to the Code of Ordinances. Okay, so given the short amount of time we have tonight, I'm not going to delve into how Robert's Rules of Order came about or its author, Henry Robert, but this is the book, about 600 pages. So it's light reading. For those of you that, are curious, there is a nice section on the history, and it talks about how it all came about and who Henry Robert is and that. So feel free to peruse that if you want to get a copy of this. And there also, if you're interested, there is a book, Robert's Rules of Order in brief. When I'm just looking for something real quick, I tend to look through this because most of the stuff that's in here is very applicable to what will be used in county board meetings. It simplifies things. Okay, let's talk about the necessary components of a meeting. The quorum. A quorum is a majority of the entire membership of the body that is gathering to conduct government business, be it the county board or its committees, boards, or commissions. In the case of the county board, that would be at least 11 supervisors that need to be present to conduct business or to hold a meeting. Important here, underlined, is that if at any time there's not a quorum, the meeting must be immediately stopped until a quorum can be reached. And as you'll know, if you have the agenda for tonight, there is a order of business. We went through the call to order. That's me opening the meeting. And there's an order of business, which is a list. It's essentially a roadmap that's used to place agenda items on the agenda. With regards to the call to order and order of business, after the presiding officer has called the meeting to order, the meeting proceeds with the order of business. So if we go, so this is what it looks like. This is the template order of business that the county follows for each committee and board meeting. I'm not going to go through all of those, but you can just read those yourself. This is codified in Chapter 2 of the Code of Ordinances, which is the county board rules. So this is what we use for all committee meetings, all county board meetings. This is the roadmap we follow every time when an agenda is produced. The first four are pretty relatively straightforward. And we'll cover number 5, members of the public wishing to be heard, a little later. With regards to number 6, the consent agenda, the purpose of the consent agenda is to allow the board to vote on relatively routine items of business as a group with a single motion and vote. And I'll come back to that a little bit later. We'll talk a little bit more in depth about the consent agenda. The next item is the order of business, or the business items. Chapter 2 of the code requires that all business items be voted on by the board, that are voted on by the board must be either in the form of a resolution, an ordinance, or a policy. With regards to ordinances and policies, those require 2 readings by the board before they can be voted on. And as you can see, there's an exception to that. The ordinance does allow the board to vote to waive the 2 readings requirement if there is a need. It usually comes up if there's, a time sensitivity issue with a matter. But there does need to be a motion made, and it requires, waiving the second reading requires a 2/3 majority vote. The reason for having the 2 readings is that normally the ordinance and the policy are explained at the first reading and then voted on at the second reading. The purpose being to allow initial questions or discussion from the board. And you'll also notice then the other type of business item is a resolution. That only requires 1 reading. So the other thing we need to learn about here is motions. How do we get business items before the board for discussion or action? And that is by the motion. That's the means by which business is brought before the board. And a motion is a formal proposal by a member that the assembly takes certain action. The basic form is called a main motion. Just a couple of notes about motions. As I mentioned, most motions at the county board level are to approve a resolution, an ordinance, or policy that's before it as a business item. It's important to remember that the function of making such a motion, a main motion, is to get the resolution, ordinance, or policy on the floor for discussion by the board. And then upon completion of any discussion, the item's voted on. But I want you to remember, this can be confusing for some. If you make a motion to approve an item, that doesn't mean you have to vote for it. It's simply to get the matter before the board. That's important because I know that some people have been confused about that in the past and didn't want to make a motion simply because they thought they had to then vote for it. So then this slide gives us a look at the steps in making a motion. The first step is to obtain the floor, and that's to get recognition from the chair to speak. The next step is to make the motion. It's simply as simple as Supervisor Smith moves to approve Resolution 24-99 as proposed, for example. Then motion needs to be seconded. Supervisor Jones seconds the motion, or Supervisor Jones seconds. Once that's been done, then the motion is restated by the chair. Chair will say a motion to approve Resolution 2499 as proposed and has been made by Supervisor Smith and seconded by Supervisor Jones. At that time, then the chair will ask whether the body's ready for the question or if there's any debate or discussion on the matter. And at that point, the body can discuss the matter. And then just, this is one thing I'm sure the clerk would appreciate. Remember to, in order to obtain the floor and be recognized by the chair, you need to press your green button. And then once you do that, your name will come up on the screen and the chair can then call on you so that you can speak. I think we prefer that the third person be used here so that, for example, saying, instead of I second or I make a motion, say, recite supervisor so-and-so makes a motion. I know it feels weird to talk in the third person. I mean, some of us actually dreamed about talking in third person. So if you have, this is your opportunity, right? But it just makes it easier to determine who has made the motion that way. Some more points of consideration for motions. The member making the motion, as I said, must first obtain the floor by being recognized by the chair. Remember that the motion's not before the body until it's been stated by the chair. And also that the motion can be, I would say, should be prefaced with a few words of explanation, but make it short, as concise as you can to try to explain the motion. Try not to make it a long speech. And I think that last point's pretty important because motions that are made carefully, with carefully chosen words, make it easier for the board, one, the board to understand, and two, it also makes it easier for the clerk to record the motion for the minutes. So more succinct you can be with your motion, the better. Okay, so now that we know how to make a motion, what happens if you have second thoughts and decide you no longer wish to pursue the motion? This is called withdrawing a motion. The motion belongs, as I said before, to the member before it's stated by the chair. So upon recognition by the chair, the member who made the motion can modify or withdraw the motion without the consent of anyone. However, if the motion's been made, seconded, and stated by the chair, then consent for the request to withdraw or modify the motion needs to be granted by the committee or by the body. And generally, the way we would do that is first informally, the chair would ask body, is there anyone that objects to the withdrawal of the motion? And if there is no objection, then the person's allowed to withdraw the motion. If not, then we would probably need to take a vote. So assuming a main motion has not been withdrawn, it's been stated by the chair and is now in the hands of the board, the next step is for the board to discuss the motion and put it to a vote. So this slide covers some of the steps for doing that. First one is debate or to discuss the motion. As we mentioned before, you need to obtain the floor before speaking, pressing your green button, being recognized by the chair. And then we ask, or you should make sure that debate or discussion is confined to the merits of the motion. We need to keep things as efficient as possible. We don't want to stray off on matters that aren't related to the motion at hand, because those matters may not have been agended, and we don't want to talk about things in the meeting that aren't on the agenda. Otherwise, the public doesn't know we're speaking about them. The next step is to put the question or the motion to a vote. The chair may close the debate or discussion if no one seeks the floor for further debate. At the committee level, the chair would recite the motion and ask, as many are in favor, say aye. Those opposed, say nay. Most of the votes at the committee level are done on a voice vote, not all of them, but for the most part, yes. Again, at the county board level, we have electronic voting, so only and it's generally up to the preference of the county board chair, but the routine, motions that we have may be done by voice vote. For the most part, I'd relegate that probably to adjourning the meeting. That can be done on a voice vote. I don't think there's anybody who's going to object to ending the meeting at the end of a long night, so. And then once there's been a vote, the chair announces whether the ayes or the nays have it and whether the motion carries or fails. Okay, so we've learned what a main motion is, what its purpose is. There's also, there are many, many motions, but based on my experience, the lists that I've produced here are the ones that, some are more common than others, but these are the ones that I've seen over the years used at the committee and county board level. There may be others I'm missing that infrequently were used, but this is probably, for the most part, the ones that you're going to want to familiarize yourself with. These are all secondary motions. And secondary motions, what they do is affect or interrupt consideration of the main motion. Tonight, I am, given the short amount of time we have, I'm only going to cover the motion to amend because I think that's the most relevant and that will be the most probably employed and useful to you. And I want to keep things simple for you folks, as I know many of you are probably kind of an information overload, or you're going to be tonight. So, but they're all in the agenda in my presentation. All the slides are. I encourage you to look back at those, familiarize yourself with all of those other secondary motions. And again, I'm always available for questions. When you read through that, you don't understand, when would I possibly use this? I'm more than glad to sit down and talk with you. So the motion to amend, it's probably the most common secondary motion, as I mentioned, that I see supervisors use. And its use is to modify the wording of a pending motion before the pending motion is acted upon. For example, you would say, I move to amend the motion. In the ways usually that you amend a motion, you either insert or add words, you delete words, or you delete and insert words. It's kind of hard for me off the cuff to come up with an example. For example, resolutions that come to the county board, they're stated, there's language in the resolution. Someone may want to amend some of that language. And you'll notice that on resolutions, they're numbered, the lines are numbered. So the easiest way to make it clear what you're wanting to amend is to reference the line number and the language that you want stricken, and then indicate what language you want put in. It may not be that. It may just be to delete something at line 74 or to insert this language into line 80. It does require a second, and it allows discussion just the same as any motion. If the amendment is approved by the body by majority vote, the main motion is taken up again as amended by the approved amendment. And this is where it gets a little bit crazy because amendments themselves can also be amended. But amendments can only be amended once. So I know that's in my advice, or I'm hoping at least that we don't run into that too much, because when it does happen, it gets, I think, some board supervisors will agree that it gets a little bit confusing. So, again, it's important that the motion to amend be as concise and specific as possible so that the boards understand what they're being asked to consider. And again, it makes the clerk's job easier in trying to get that all down. So the next slide is, oh, what happened? Oh, it's coming up. Taking a while. Oh, I have to actually click it. Okay, so this is, my non-techie, my horrible, illustration of an amendment of an amendment, but here you go. This is just kind of how it works. You can have original main motion, which can be amended, and you can also have the amendment itself be amended. So once the amendment's been approved, you go back to the main motion and you vote on it as amended. That make sense? Okay. Again, I'm going to skip through these and let you look at those on your own time. Okay. I do want to touch on decorum in debate. I think it's important. There needs to be civility in our meetings. You're here to represent the public. We should gain confidence from the public by being civil with each other. Some important considerations, how members of the body should conduct themselves during meetings. You should refrain from attacking members' motives, as each member is entitled to their own opinion. You should maintain courteous tone. And here's a big one. This is the one that occasionally I see happen, is that sometimes supervisors will address each other in discussion. And I think it's important that your discussion should be addressed to the chair, not to each other. So no side conversations with other members. And as I mentioned before, I think it's a very good practice, and I'd like to see it used more because I think it donates respect, is to avoid using individuals' names on the board and rather refer them by their title. So supervisor so-and-so or Mr. Chair. And then make sure that your remarks are germane to the merits of the motion. Again, we need to stay efficient with our meetings, and we don't want to be talking about matters that aren't on the agenda. So try to keep your discussion on the merits. And I guess just common sense, it's a common theme, just be respectful to each other. We don't want these meetings to turn into like a Packer Viking game or anything like that. And then the same thing applies to the chair, especially given that the chair's job is to maintain an orderly, efficient meeting. The chair should not speak in debate, and I think that's very important. And if the chair wishes to debate the merits of an agenda item, he or she should relinquish his or her position as chair to the vice chair until after the agenda item is voted upon by the body. The other thing the chair needs to do is keep the body on task, and don't allow discussion to stray from the specific agenda item on the floor. I mentioned that I wanted to go back to the consent agenda. Just remember that all items on the consent agenda are normally approved in one motion due to the voluminous, repetitive, routine nature of them. If you noticed on the order of business, the consent agenda is made up of minutes, approving the minutes, which is fairly routine, and also amendatory zoning ordinances. They are very voluminous and generally not, for the most part, controversial. The zoning committee reviews those pretty scrupulously at their meetings. So those are the two items that are part of the consent agenda. However, if a member does disagree or wishes to consider any individual consent agenda items separately, the member should make a motion to that effect. They'd like to pull one of those items out and consider it separately from the rest of the consent agenda. Public wishing to be heard. Members of the public wishing to be heard need to sign up prior to the chair calling the meeting to order. And there is a specific agenda item for public wishing to be heard, so that the chair will recognize the public at that time. Here's an important thing too, is that there isn't to be any debate or discussion with the public when they come to speak. The public's here to make a statement. This is a business meeting. And again, you get in if you engage with the public, you get into that situation where you're possibly talking about something that isn't on the agenda. So, I do want to point out that at the committee level, sometimes it may be appropriate. It's really up to the chair. I've seen it in zoning committee meetings. Occasionally, the chair will recognize a member of the public who is fairly knowledgeable about a topic that is under consideration, and may recognize that person, but I don't encourage that. The meetings are for the committee and the board, not for the public to engage with the committee or the board. And then just remember that there is a five-minute time limit, and we try to stick to that very, very tightly so that, you know, there's no favoritism there. Closed sessions, I'm not going to touch on this, as we're going to be covering this in the open meetings law on Thursday. I would just suggest that you review this slide prior to Thursday. It'll give you a heads up on what we're going to talk about then. We'll go into more detail on closed sessions on Thursday. Communication items. Just a note about these, any correspondence item requiring discussion should be specifically listed and described on the agenda under reports, so that the item is noticed properly to the public and can be fully discussed by the body. What we mean by that is that, I don't remember how long ago it was, but we used to have an item on the agenda that was called correspondence. And that tended to be abused in many respects. Generally, a lot of times, the term correspondence was used very loosely, and supervisors would use that time to talk about an item that wasn't necessarily correspondence, but was just something that they wanted to get it stuck in for discussion in the meeting. And that's inappropriate, because a lot of times those things that were brought up weren't on the agenda. So the correspondence was removed. And so now anytime a supervisor they may receive correspondence from a constituent that they want the rest of the committee or a board to know about, we had them ask the committee chair to put that on the agenda as a report, so that it's, so the public knows what that item is about. And then, as you can see on the order of business, there's also a agenda item for future agenda items. A member may move a request at the committee level to include a certain issue or item on a future agenda, but the key here to remember is discussion may not be had on the issue or the item during the meeting in which it's moved or requested. Again, it goes back to not discussing items that aren't agended and haven't been noticed to the public yet for them to review. Code of Ethics, I am not going to cover that in depth tonight, but I do encourage you, absolutely encourage you to read those slides and to look at those sections of the Code of Ordinances, to become familiar with them. The one part of the Code of Ethics I do want to cover, because this is most applicable to you, you should familiarize yourself with this, is conflicts of interest. No county board supervisor may use his or her public position or office to obtain financial gain or anything of substantial value for the private benefit of himself or herself, or his or her family, or for an organization with which he or she is associated. I'm not going to read the other two provisions, but they're similar. You need to familiarize yourself with those. In conflicts of interest, the reason I mention those is that they often go hand in hand during meetings of the county board with abstentions. Abstentions, a county board supervisor may have believe that they have a conflict of interest that doesn't allow them to vote on an item that's on the agenda. Just want to make sure I'm covering all the stuff up. As you can see, that section 260 covers abstentions. And it says, all motions to excuse a member from voting shall be made before calling ayes and nays on the question pending. And any member wishing to be excused from voting shall make a brief verbal statement of the reason for making such request. And the question shall then be taken without further notice. You can see that a verbal statement is required. And the reason for that is that it informs the public, and also it helps to safeguard from abstentions that are made simply due to indifference or on a matter or other improper uses. But generally, what we find when abstentions come into play is when someone believes they have a conflict of interest based on, it may involve a family member, the particular item that's on the agenda that they're having to vote on may involve a family member, a business that they're involved in, that type of thing, that they don't believe that that there's conflict there and they therefore need to remove themselves from the vote. Yay, getting to the end. Again, I thank you for your patience tonight, and I look forward to meeting and working with all of you. But in closing, if one thing you take away from this tonight, I would ask to please, please, please come to Corporation Council with any specific questions you may have about parliamentary procedure. My doors will always open. I'm a pretty informal guy. I'm welcome anybody who comes down to see me. And please, please, please do not wait to seek answers to particular questions on parliamentary procedure at the meeting itself, if possible. I know sometimes that isn't. Sometimes things come in play just before a meeting or even during a meeting. But if we can get out it ahead of time and I can answer your questions, it makes the meetings run a lot more efficiently. And I can probably come up with a better answer for you prior to the meeting than I can during the meeting. There's just too much going on, and it's just not efficient. It's not an efficient use of the body's time. Like I said, I can get a more thorough answer to you if it's posed prior to the scheduled meeting. So with that, I will get out of your way here and let us move on with the meeting. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to item 5, Consent agenda. Motion and a second to approve the consent agenda.
Biltmore moves to approve the consent agenda.
Biltmore moves. You have a second?
Second.
Supervisor Flynn. So we have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion on these two items? Okay, you use your remote control and vote green for yes, and red for no. And our clerk gets through all of her screens to get it back up again. It's interesting to finally see it from this end to see what she deals. No, I understand. Yeah, release the votes. There are 21 yes, 0 no, passes. Consent agenda is approved. Item 6 is members of the public wishing to be heard. Pardon?
No one signed up.
No one signed up. So there's no members of the public. Item 7 is the business items. No business items today. Item 8 is the county board orientation, phase 1. Item 1 is the county operational update. Our county administrator.
Thank you, Chair. First of all, good evening. Congratulations to everybody that's on the board. Congratulations to the Chair, Vice Chair, and the Executive Committee for getting elected. My name is Randy Schultz. I'm the County Administrator. I've been here since 2018. The current board members know my story. I'll give them the story when I meet the rest of the board, or the new members when we set up our meetings. But just real brief, I started in Lincoln County plowing snow. So it's been an interesting career to how I got here. So I'll give you that. So the overview of the meeting, I'll have Tracy go through this. I'm going to move pretty quick. I'm just going to touch briefly on each one of these. Some of these items we could talk for hours on, and the previous board did. But obviously we don't have time to get into all that, so I'll move pretty quick. This is strategic plan. This is really where it all starts. We did the strategic plan in 2020. It's hard to believe it's been 4 years. Should probably be updated, but with everything else going on right now, really can't fit that in. But this is really used. When I came here, I was really impressed with the department heads. The decisions they made were based off this. They did it in their requests for employees. They did it in their budget presentations, and it's driven by the board. So this is the board's vision, or the board's vision at that time, which obviously can change over time. And then the next slide is the organizational structure, and it all starts on top there. You can see with the citizens. It begins and ends with them. We take them in consideration in every decision we make. I see that from the board, from your point of view. The board's doing that also. If you look to the left, those are elected positions. Those are positions that I have no authority over. The county board has authority over different elected positions depending on what the position is. But I treat elected positions just like department heads. They get all the information. They're involved in all the department head meetings and any strategies, any policies we're doing. They have big jobs. They have lots of employees, lots of money. They got to be trained, and they have to act just like department heads, and they do. So I treat them the same. If you look in the middle there, we got the judges, which you met one of them so far, and the district attorney. They're state workers. They are actually not funded by the county. We do fund most of their positions because we're required to. And then if you see the judicial or the probate on the bottom there, underneath the judges, it's kind of hard to see, but she's actually appointed by the judges. So that's kind of unique too. Then you have the county board chair. You can see all that kind of works down to the committees. You'll see my assistants in between the chair and myself. She gives assistance to the county board chair and myself for administrative confidential information that we have to work through. She sets up the calendars. It's really important to make sure she's in the flow of things. If you have questions, concerns, she's been here for a while and has a lot of history and is a good resource for you guys too. So just like Corp Counsel said our department heads, myself, Tracy are available anytime you need to set something up. Just let us know. We really are here to answer questions and to serve the things that you want to get done. The way I work things is if the county board makes the decision, that's the direction we go. We go full bore. You can have really close decisions sometimes, might be one vote. I see in the past, I've seen county boards get stuck sometimes if it's a close vote and some aren't upset about the vote. I really haven't seen that since I've been in Chippewa County, so that's a good thing. But we will go for full bore on whatever decision the county board makes. That's our jobs. So if you look to this is really the hierarchy. Really the Constitution obviously is over all this, but Todd touched on this a little bit. We got state statute, ordinances, resolutions, county policy, county procedures, and how that kind of works through. A difference in county government compared to villages, townships, cities is counties are only allowed to do what the state statutes say we can do, where the other ones can do anything that they're not prohibited from doing. That's a big difference. They talk about home rule. You guys probably have heard that before. I say technically we don't have home rule. We can do what the state says we can do. And that's kind of the way it works. We get funding from the state. Wisconsin's very unique in the fact that the counties provide services from the state. Most of that is done on the state level in other states. It causes little issues here and there with the feds because then the feds got to have everything go through state and then they come to us. And unfortunately, the state, every time money goes through them, they take their little cut. So they're always getting some money off the top with programs that we do, but that's the way it's set up in Wisconsin. So roles and responsibility, Sarah Dietrich Kalsdorf from Wisconsin County Association will be here to the meeting on Thursday to do an overview on this. Wisconsin County Association, as you find out, is a great resource. They put on the conventions and have a lot of information if you need anything from them. And Sarah does a great job. She's been with WCA for a long time. County Board Supervisors, you are the leaders. It all starts with you. Focus on policy, the needs of the county, important activities, budget approval, budget. Everything starts and begins with money. People don't like to hear that sometimes, but it's all about the budget and it's all about the taxpayers' money. So we always are cognizant of that. Strategic plan, already talked about that. Then policy development and approval. Committee chairs, they move the agenda along. Communicate with department heads, details that they want included in the committee reports. And that does varies from chair to chair, varies from board to board. And the chairs really run that and control that part of it. Agenda package should include supporting materials for every agenda item. Supervisors has a question on an agenda item, please contact the department heads, kind of what Todd was talking about. Contact myself. We don't know everything on the spur of the moment. If there's something you want to know or some information, we'll get it. But sometimes it takes a little time. So please, if you got something that you know you're going to ask, just ask the department head and they'll be more than happy to make sure we have the information there. Makes the meetings go much quicker and doesn't delay decisions you have to make. But the ultimate authority to all policy development and implementation is the county board. For county-wide issues, committees for issues pertaining to a specific department. There could be committee department policies that only stay at the committee level because they don't touch the full county board. Pay attention to the Wisconsin open meetings laws. County board supervisors need to be careful about discussing committee matters with other county board supervisors outside of the posted meetings. It's really about the public needs to know what you guys are thinking. You want to come to the meetings and have a good debate, which we've had here in Chippewa County, and the county board has done a great job in the past on that, not getting personal or holding grudges about those debates. So that's great to see. County board supervisors have access to the county employee portal to review county board adopted policies. County board supervisors can use county website for accessing all relevant information. The county website has all the information you possibly probably need. But always reach out to us. Sometimes it can be a little hard to navigate. So reach out and we can make sure you get that information. So I highly encourage you to just stay out of personnel issues. If you have a concern, bring it to Tony, who's our HR director, sitting in back, myself, department heads. We'll deal with that. It's the only thing I've ever seen in 25 plus years, county board members getting in trouble, if you will, or personally working outside their realm of what they're supposed to be doing, and then they can actually be held personally liable for that. So personnel issues, I was the personnel director for 7 years. God bless personnel directors. Not my forte. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of stuff going on with laws and FMLA, you name it. So I had to learn a lot of that and deal with a lot of that. But I highly encourage you, if there's anything and you will get contacted, it's just a matter of time, pretty much. Especially if you're a new member, something maybe not got done with the other member, or they didn't bring it forward, or something like that, or you just have different relationships. Please bring it forward, and we deal with personnel issues all the time. Roles and responsibility, county administrator. Run the day-to-day operation of the county under policies adopted by the county board. If you're not familiar, there's really 3 forms of county government. There's county administrator, county executive, and a county administrative coordinator. We're under a county administrator form of government, which means I can terminate department heads. If you're an executive, you're actually elected every 4 years, and you can veto the county board. So they're kind of like a governor. Then administrative coordinator really only has authority that the board gives the administrative coordinator. I was administrative coordinator in Lincoln County. I had as much, if not as authority, and actually had to bring fewer things to the board than here. So it's kind of unique how each county works. But the big difference is that I couldn't terminate department heads. So that had to go through committees and county board, which you can imagine is not comfortable for anybody. So I work with county board supervisors to develop policies. And again, it doesn't matter if I agree with the policy or disagree with the policy. If you want to bring something forward, I'll help you walk that through the committee structure. If it has to go to exec, whatever policy committee that has to go to, and then the county board. We have a system, electronic system, that we put everything in for ordinances, resolutions, policies, and that takes time. So you really got to work the calendar to get something to the county board if you have a timeline you're thinking about. But again, you can work with your department heads on that, or myself, and Tracy's a good resource for that too. County administrator will review draft agendas. I just do that to make sure that the meetings are focused on policy, there's not things repeated, or to make sure it just try to run it smoothly. County administrator and department heads will focus recommendations based on strategic plan, county board, the department mission statement, and the impact on operation costs and department capacity. And I always tell, you're going to get our opinions, you're going to get your department head's opinion, you're going to get my opinion, that's what you pay us for. But ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your decision. We're going to tell you what we think and what we feel, but you answer to the taxpayers, and you may have different feelings and different ideas on that, and that's the way it is. Again, once you make that decision, all departments move forward on those decisions. Sure, the laws and policies that are approved by the county board are equally enforced. Really, the place I see this is, or complaints over the years, is zoning. People complain that one area of the county is not being enforced the same as the other. Really haven't had too much of that here, which is good, but that has been kind of the history of complaints about things not being equally enforced. Prepare annual budget. Again, budget, that's the huge deal. Lori, our finance director, and I spend lots of time together with our department heads, working through that, and then through the committee structure, and then ultimately through exec and the county board. Supervise and evaluate the annual performance of all county department heads. Work to successfully achieve annual goals. Those are set by the executive committee. I'll go through those in a little bit. So here's the department description. Again, you can go out on the website and see that. It has details on that. And then my county administrator 2024 goals. I won't go through them. You can see them. I'm going to actually touch on some of these as we move forward. But the executive committee sets those each year during my evaluation time, and they're mutually agreed on. There's some things that the executive committee might want to work on, want me to work on, and it really comes down to time. The ability to get things done. Obviously, we can't do everything, but we, I keep this on my, in my desk or on my bulletin board and look at it frequently to make sure we're kind of clicking those off as we move forward. So here's some things we've been dealing with. Courthouse security, you can kind of read the background there. The next step, so in March 2024, the Executive Committee and County Board will review three options on how to move forward in addressing security at the courthouse. The outgoing county board provided a recommendation for the new county board to consider. This information will be brought back to you in the future, and you guys will make a decision on how you want to do that. They talked a lot about single point of entry. The previous county board kind of went away from that and looked at kind of a hybrid for security, adding a security officer, maybe two, and then limiting access to some of the doors. So that's kind of the direction that the previous board gave. Well, we'll give you a full update on all that, and then you guys will have to make a decision on what that is and some cost, obviously, that's incorporated with that. Financial software. This Springbrook is our financial software. They've decided that we no longer can have an on-premise solution to that. So now it's off-premise or the cloud. You guys hear a lot about. Pretty much every software is going to this, or it feels like it's going to this. What it means to us is it's less control on what we can work on or help with, and it costs more money. That's what I've discovered with software. So if somebody can have a solution for a software that runs finance and HR at the same time, you'd be a billionaire, because it does not exist. And there's some that are good at one or the other, but nobody's found anything that's good at both. So we'll see how that goes. It's been a long process. The finance division has done a lot of work with this. So the budget docs for the current or the county board members that are here are going to look different. We honestly don't even know what that looks like at this time, which is a little scary to us, because obviously we're moving into budget time. But they're still working on I don't know if it's programmers or who does all that type of work, but Lori and her staff are working really close with them trying to get that done. And it's going to have to get done one way or the other, but it is going to look different, which is unfortunate, because it was a huge step up when I came here to Chippewa County compared to what the county board members saw in my previous county. They basically saw a budget, didn't have the descriptions broken down, anything like that. So it was really good. We think we can do that still, but it's going to be much more cumbersome and a lot more work for the finance division. But it's unfortunate that they update their software according to them, and it's, to us, a step back on what we're trying to do. So new county email addresses, web domains, kind of goes with the same theme, cybersecurity. We get attacks every single day. You'll get emails. Eventually, it'll be from the chair. Can you contact me? Can you give me or get some dollars for me with gift cards? You'll get them from me. Just be very careful of anything you respond to. We've had 2 in the city, because we also do IT for the city, that actually did fall for that and cost the employees some money that they thought they were doing something for the mayor. So just be real careful with that. HSHS Prevea, obviously you guys have heard a lot about this. At this time, we still don't know the operational impact to us. We're starting to see it and hear it a little bit. Obviously, it's a huge deal with EMS in that world, but it's a big deal in our jail, our sheriff's office, dealing with bringing people to the hospital for detox and just procedures, and our DHS departments and all that. So it's been a lot. We're part of a group that you guys probably heard this in the news in Eau Claire County. They put something together. We really haven't been meeting for that. That really hasn't, I don't know. I'm not really part of that much. We do have a local one that's, I think, a little better for the chamber here, that Allison's done a really good job with and had, conversations, but we still don't know what's happening. There's, some of the stuff, and you guys hear a lot of this, it's getting filled in. There's going to be people that are coming and going to fill some of these voids. To me, seeing everything I've seen through this whole process, it's really about the emergency room capacity of the emergency rooms. There's other issues, don't get me wrong, mental health and AODA, which are big concerns. But what I heard from the doctors throughout this whole process, if we can't keep them alive, we can't treat them. So that's really a huge focus, and nobody's got the solution for. So that's been a lot of meetings dealing with a lot of that information. National opioid litigation, you probably heard about this in the news too. There are several lawsuits, settlements that have happened. You can kind of read all the stuff that we've dealt with, and it continues. Things come out of nowhere and say, hey, we got a settlement in this, you're getting this much money, and we cannot get a list of all the lawsuits and what they believe is going to be the remedies to those lawsuits at this time. They say they're going to put something out, but I've even contacted the head legal person, and she didn't have the list. So it's a little frustrating, the fact that we don't know what's coming. We did set up a procedure that the county board approved of, and we implemented this into our budget process, because we do know, or we're supposed to, if everything works out, we're going to get opioid money for the next 15, 17, 18 years, depends on what the lawsuits were. So it's going to be part of our budget process. So we worked through that process when this all came out. But again, it's lots of information, and I don't think anybody knows all of it. Andy Phillips, who works for WCA, really is kind of the head person that's dealt with a lot of this, and he doesn't even know all the details on all of it. So a lot of information, again, coming forward. Public firearm range, sure you've heard about this too. And the county board decided to close the range and remediate the range. We've done that. We've done the lead mitigation, that's all done, and they were working out there at least a week, so they probably only have a week left or so to get the grounds in order. There's only going to be one building left there. It was an education building that's in good shape that the board felt like would be an asset if the board decides to sell it or not. So the board will have to make that decision too, coming up here. After we have that all settled and have everything paid, we'll bring that forward. All right, Farm Tech Days, very exciting. Last time it was here in Chippewa, I think it was 2004, if I remember. Is that right? Charlie Walker from Economic Development is really heading this. It's going to be huge, as everything Charlie does. Sounds like the tent city, if you will, is like double what it normally is. So that's a good thing. And I never had any experience with this. I did know it was in Marathon County when I was leaving Lincoln County, and I knew the highway commissioner there because I was a highway commissioner. And I said, do they really get 20 to 30,000 people? And he said, that might be an underestimate. He said, do not underestimate the traffic flow and the amount of people that are going to show up for this thing. So we've been well aware of that. Chippewa County did provide $20,000 in seed money. They have not asked for that. They've been able to get everything done by sponsorship. Charlie's really good at that. And then the county gets the seed money back, and then if there's any expenditures for that event. So, and then a potential new business park. As many of you know, our current business park is filling up, and we started a process back in 2018 looking to see first if we needed the business park. If we did need it, where were the locations? There were several different areas that were identified in that, and we're currently negotiating, talking to some landowners about possible location. SCH is kind of leading the charge with that. And again, big decision what to do and when to move forward with that, and you get updates on that moving forward too. So County Housing Authority, this is kind of a unique situation. I was not familiar with the Housing Authority really until I came to Chippewa. In my previous county, they was done by the two cities, and the county really didn't have anything to do with it until the state decided that they needed a consortium, which the state, they love consortiums. So in 2012, they decided that they needed a consortium. So Chippewa County became a consortium and is a consortium that includes the counties listed there. They deal with the revolving loan fund. They have nothing to do with the county. They are not employees. We don't give them money. We do have them in our facility, I think, as just ability to help them run and operate. But they're not our employees. They're a separate entity that has their own bylaws and deals with all this stuff on their own. But they do great work in the county and all that. So, not saying anything disparaging against them, but the county really doesn't have anything to do with them, and everybody thinks we do. So I guess that's really the point. And, so funding for outside agencies, these are the agencies that we fund. Counties are not allowed to just give money to people. We're not allowed to give money to nonprofits. There needs to be a contractual reason that we're doing this, and all these have a contractual reason. If you look at the Chippewa County Economic Development, we have an agreement with them for $195,000. Again, Charlie Walker runs that and operates that. The Tourism Council is through the Chamber. We give money to them for tourism. Chippewa Valley Innovation Center, this I think is awesome. Never heard anything like this before, but the Innovation Center, we give $10,000 a year, and it's a collaboration with the City of Eau Claire, ourselves, County of Eau Claire, and the city, or in the economic development of the two. And it's really for startups. And it's some of the stories are just remarkable. I love the fact that people can have an idea in their basement or in their garage or somewhere and then develop that. And this really helps them do that. They have space to operate. They have some meeting space. We just gave, it was a $20,000 of ARPA funds? $20,000 ARPA funds so they could update their meeting rooms and have some technology in there. If you get an opportunity, I think every spring they do an open house. I believe it's every spring, right, Chair or Jim? And I would highly encourage you to go to it. It's just, I just think it's an innovative thing that started in, I believe, the 80s. And they do a great job of really getting companies off their feet, and they have some very amazing success stories. So the Chippewa Valley Regional Airport, we do give some money to that through a contract for capital improvement, and that comes from our sales tax, and they're able to use that for debt levy or for CIP projects. The Eau Claire also gives money for that. We just signed the contract for them from 2024 to 2028 for $132,890 of sales tax, and that stays the same for those years, so it doesn't go up each year. Northwest ITBEC. ITBEC is really an organization that tries to do a regional approach to tourism. We give $3,000 to them. Northern Wisconsin State Fair. Again, most people think the county runs the fair and has all this to do with the fair. We don't own anything at the fair. 4-H does their youth program through the fair. Rusty Volt, if you know him, he's a whirlwind. Does a great job. It's just amazing the work they've been able to do up there. We do give them $54,000, and we do we're allowed to do trainings on their grounds and use their grounds for different activities. But he does a great job, and he'll be here eventually talking to you guys too. Then the Wisconsin County Association, talked briefly about this. They do lots of training. They do legislative technical assistance, training and education programs. There'll be some coming out for new county board members, but I would encourage any county board member to go to it. They really do a great job trying to educate, and they do advocate for counties. There was recently some money that was through sales tax that's coming back to the counties, the most I've ever seen money come back to the counties in 25 years. WCA really spearheaded that and got that moving forward. They have great relationships. I've seen that grow over the years down there, so they do get some done. I do have, there are some organizations that are tied to WCA that I think need some more oversight from the counties, if you will, but overall, I think they do a good job for the counties trying to get some funding and letting the legislatures know that we have issues or concerns. It's very difficult sometimes to get that across to people that you can't do fundraising for, right? Which kind of makes sense, but they have great relationships and do a good job. WestCap mission is to take action against poverty by developing social and economic assistance of low-income families. That's, again, is a regional, it's Barron County, Chippewa, Dunn. You can see them there. So we give $4,500 to that. I think we have one county board member assigned to that every year. Carrie. And then West Central Region Planning, again, we give money to them. They help us with strategic planning. Sometimes they'll write zoning codes. They're a resource for federal funding. I went to them when I got the money for the plan for the park. And one of the reasons I did that is if you went through that process, and anytime you get federal money, it's just a pain, to be honest with you. But the reason I felt it was important is if we did that, then we are qualified. If we do go for our business park, we open ourselves up to be able to get some grants from the feds for actually doing the park, and we get points for using those funds. So, you know, it's pretty darn quick, but I know it's been a long night. So, any questions? Please ask, or again, doors always open. Please come and visit, say hi, call, whatever you need to do. We're here to help you. Any questions?
Thank you, Randy.
Thank you, guys. Oh, we got one.
Take care of it later.
Okay.
So are we okay to move on, or are you ready for, I mean, I know it's late, but anybody need a break, or we'll move on? Now we get to the easy stuff with the finance. Invite the finance director up here, and our eyes are crossing already.
Try to make it interesting. It is exciting for me, but nobody else. So I'm Lori Sweebelover. I'm their finance director. I have been, just a little bit about myself, I have been here for 31 years. I started out as an account clerk. I went to got my degree. So I have just moved up the chain. So just to let you know, I have lots of history. So tonight we're just going to talk a few things about the finance area, but particularly about the budget area and a lot of components of the budget area. So first of all, I just wanted to show you our central finance team. We have finance team members in a whole bunch of different in other departments, especially the bigger departments. So I just wanted to share that we're kind of everywhere. First of all, we'll start with the budget process. So we start out the process in May. I'm going to be bringing a presentation to you guys to start the budget process, and then you'll be going to your policy committees. That's going to be June, July, and then we'll be bringing the CA proposed budget into the executive committee in October. And then we'll have 2 meetings in November for the budget. The first budget meeting is the budget hearing, is called. And then the second meeting is where we actually adopt the tax levy. I think I better get to my notes. I'm just talking off the cuff. Here, I was just trying to illustrate here that we were making transition to Springbrook Cloud. Randy did a really good job, so I'm just going to move on. So here is our total 2024 budget. Is $126,122,210. And you'll see that it's separated by different functions. And then we also have on the right-hand side is our 2024 tax levy by function. So because the total budget is got all different kinds of revenue sources, and tax levy is just one revenue source. And I'll show that in the next slide. Just to give you an example of what the different functions are, public safety is going to be your sheriff's department, emergency management, and coroner. Conservation and development, it's going to be land conservation and forest management, and planning and zoning and parks. Transportation is going to be highway department. UW extension is that little sliver. It's UW extension. Because they really call it in finance stuff, they call it leisure. So that's why we don't call it that. Health and social services is going to be human services, public health, and veterans. And then general government is everybody else that I didn't talk about, such as county board, like how we pay you guys. That's where we're charging those funds out of. You got the county clerk, you got the clerk of courts, you got the county treasurer, all the Department of Administration, district attorney, child support, just to name a few. So it's a big chunk. So as I talked about before, the 2024 budget, you have all your revenue sources that have to come up to that 126 million. $122,210. So there it just shows you all the different revenue sources. So the biggest light green one is going to be our intergovernmental aids. That's federal and state aids. And up in there in the blue, I think it's 17%. That is our tax levy. So, and here are our expenses. So 34% of our budgeted costs are for our wages and benefits for our employees. And so a component of the budget is going to be sales tax over on the left-hand side. That is the area of all the different projects that were part of the sales tax budget this sales tax budget last year. And then on the left-hand side, I wanted to share that there's some just little fun facts, but make sure to know that if we didn't have the sales tax dollars, we'd have to increase our bonding. And then it has another effect in the bonding monies. We would have an effect because we wouldn't be able to, with the levy limits, we'd have issues there. So there's just a lot tied to sales tax, so I want people to understand. So here is a little bit from a historical standpoint about levy limits, the equalized valuation review, and then the tax rate. You'll notice our tax rate has been going down. So you can see in 2020, we were at 343 per thousand, and in 2024, we're down to 240. And a large reason why that's happening is because our equalized valuation is going up. So that helps offset that increase for tax levy increases. And we'll talk more about it during our budget, but I wanted just to touch a little bit on it just to share. This really means when your equalized value is going up, that means that we have really good economic increases here in Chippewa County. We'll also talk about capital improvement program. I'm sorry, I always call it CIP. I'm a really bad acronym person. So it started back in 2012. We'll definitely be bringing a lot of information to you guys in June to talk about the CIP plan. To be part of a CIP plan, the cost has to be more than $50,000, and it has to have a useful life of more than 3 years. We'll talk more about that. Here's just an example of the CIP plan that was approved back in June of 2023. And here's a timeline. I'll let you guys read it at your leisure, so if you want to take a nap when you read it. Another component of our budget is bonding. We don't usually bond every year. We usually bond every other year, and it helps us usually for 2 years of highway road construction. It's really great. Chippewa County currently has a AA1 bond rating. It's the second highest rating. I will go a lot more into depth. We'll be having a bonding presentation in June when we actually have to decide if we're going to bond again this year for the 2025 budget. And just you can see where R.W. Baird is our bond underwriter, and then Quarles and Brady is our bond counsel. So everything is done outside of just Chippewa County. We don't do it in our own little bubble. And this is just the big picture of our a hypothetical only about coming up with a plan for long-term plan for bonding. It doesn't mean it has to be done that way. It's just a plan. And here will be our bonding timeline for this year. Another component that only this year we should be talking about will be ARPA, or American Rescue Plan Act funding. So Chippewa County got $12,559,059. And I'm sure you might have heard about, there were only 4 allowable areas of usage, and it's really important that you use these funds, otherwise you could potentially have to pay it back to the federal government. And I don't know about you, but I don't love to ever give money back. So here is just the projects for broadband that we had. These have all been approved, so you can see we had 2.2 million of the 12.5 million that was actually for broadband projects already approved. And then you can see towards the right-hand side, you can see actually what we have paid so far to date, and then what remaining funds are left. Here are all the projects which were approved with revenue loss category. And again, you can see that it will just show what the remaining funds were. And here are the interest revenues. So from the time that we first got the money in 2021 until now, we have actually earned $629,849.59 for interest revenues for those monies that were invested. So it was very good. And we had chose to keep it in the ARPA fund, or in that fund, so then we could do more projects and stuff with those funds. Other counties actually just went and put it in as general revenues, and we didn't choose to do that. We wanted to be able to show that what we made off of those funds, we were able to still reinvest in the county. Randy actually talked quite a bit about the national opioid settlement because it's always a part of our budget, so I won't go into any more detail. You can see mine is a little shorter. He puts a lot on his slides. Okay, that's not. So this is just a really quick review of some finance, for the budget. I want to make sure that if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than willing to meet with anybody, okay? All right.
All right. Thank you, Lori.
Thank you.
And last but not least, from our county clerk, we'll give you a little insight into her world.
Oh, yeah. So again, for those of you up there that don't know me, my name's Jackie Sadler. I am the county clerk here in Chippewa County. And we're going to go through some information about our office, some information that's on your desk. And then my favorite topic is elections. And I would talk for hours, but I won't do that to you because it's already 9 o'clock. And I told my kids I'd be home at 9. So our office pretty much has 3 major areas by statute. The first being election administration, and I'll go through a lot of that more in detail at the end of the presentation. Legislative support and administrative services. So I am, and our office is responsible for being the support and the clerk to the county board, so to all of you. So you'll see us obviously here and then at some of the other committees as well. And then also licensing. Our office does marriage license, dog license, work permits. We actually don't do dog license. We help the municipalities do the dog license. And then we are also a passport application office as well. And we do issue timber notices. And then other services our department offers, we have notary services. We do the minutes and agendas for the County Board, Economic Development, Legal Law, and Ag and Extension committees. Then we are a backup for other committees as needed. We do all the ordering of the paper for the county, and we deliver it to all the departments. We process all the incoming and outgoing mail. We handle room reservations, vehicle registrations. We also have copying, laminating, folding services. We also are a DNR licensing office. So if you have not renewed your fishing license that expired March 31st, you should do that in our office. I'll make a whole 50 cents off your license. We also check the county drop box in the mornings. We also we help the land records by selling the plat books. We also offer stamps and movie tickets. And of course, free smiles and laughter. This is me and my staff there. So I was appointed to this position almost 7 years ago. And so almost 7 years. And then Lisa, who's on the right, she has been in our department for 33 years. And with the instructions that she's never leaving. And then Amanda is another deputy clerk in our office. She's on the left-hand side. She has spent 13 years with the county, 12 of those in our office. And for a while, she was first she was part-time, then she was full-time, but a shared position between our office and the Veterans office. But now this year, she has become full-time in our office just to help mostly with keeping up with passports and all the election duties. So information for all of you. In your folders, there is the payroll and holiday calendar. For some reason, I missed highlighting when our meeting is in May, so you'll see that though later on in the presentation. We do have a meeting in May. It's May 14th, I believe. Payroll is processed monthly, so you get your monthly salary and then any per diems. And the per diem is $35 a meeting. You should have confirmed your mileage with HR, I believe, today. Maybe earlier. I know they're confirming all of that with us. If you are filling out a per diem for a committee meeting that you are attending, you will need to attach agendas to that. And then the committee chair or county board chair should be signing those. We do ask that you turn them in monthly. Please do not stockpile them and turn them in November so you have a big check for your Christmas shopping in December. We'd like to stay on top of that. And then there is another form that's in your packet that is a longer form, and that's for if you do have to travel overnight, like to a different conference training. And again, any outside conferences or training will need to be approved by the county board chair unless it is a WCA sponsored conference. So that's just the calendar, which again, I did print one off in your folder. It's a little easier to read than in the presentation. That's the per diem slip for attending meetings. If you are going to travel to a meeting, you can either drive your own vehicle and get reimbursed mileage, or if you want to take a county vehicle, you would call our office, email us, and we can make that reservation for you if you're going to Madison and you want to drive your own car. Yep. Also, conference registrations, we will help you with any conference registrations. And again, like I said, the county board chair will not need to approve the county board chair will need to approve anything that's outside of WCA, but we can do the registrations for you, hotel reservations, any of that. Try to put together a nice little packet for you so you have all the information that you would need. Some save the dates that you'll want to put down in the white envelope that says WCA on it. Inside there's a bunch of information, but one of the things that's in there is what's called COWS. It's the County Officials Workshop. They will hold it May 8th in Eau Claire. There's also virtual options, which would be every Monday in June. There are other locations as well around the state if you'd rather go to one of those or if it works better with your schedule. Randy, I spoke about that. I attended several years ago. You do get a lot of information. It is well worth attending. I would highly encourage every new county board supervisor to attend. If you want to attend, just let me know. We can get you all registered and taken care of. The other conference to put on your calendar is September 22nd to the 24th is the WCA annual conference. This year is the year that it's in La Crosse. Every other year it's in the Dells. In La Crosse, everything is really far apart. When it's in the Dells, everything is at one location. But if you want to attend that, you'll need to let me know. And I believe registration is usually in May. And if you are going to go, I will send you an email and you need to tell me right away because the hotel rooms will fill up. I have to be on the phone at 8 o'clock when the block opens up. Sometimes they open early, so I'm usually ahead of that. This is the reimbursement form, the long form if you do go one of those conferences overnight, and it has all the information about what you can be reimbursed for. And there is, again, one of these in your folder, but if you ever need more, our office has them. They are also out on the portal as well. Supervisor mail. So yes, you have an iPad and there is email, but we still have paper mail in that you each have a mailbox, a physical mailbox in room 104, which is the finance department. You can get there through Randy and Tracy. If they're not available, come to our office. We can let you in as well. Oh, you can go through Todd's office as well. Deb is there, not Todd. Please pick up your mail monthly. I went in there today to put all your names on the mailboxes, and I think I had a stack like this of mail that was never picked up last year that I had to throw away. There was calendars, there was invitations, there's things that other entities sent to us to pass on to you. So please check your mail. All right, meetings and agendas. I know Andy did a little bit of training with you with your iPads. Everything that you will need to know for the meetings, whether it's the agendas, minutes, everything is out on the website. And I'll kind of walk you through it for those of you that don't know. But if you're on the website, there's the 4 brown buttons there. One of them says meetings and agendas. You click on that. It will take you to a screen that looks like this. Up in the left-hand corner there, it says meeting group. That's a drop down. You can click on it. You can pick whichever committee you're looking for. This one is set up for your county board meetings. And then you'll see it'll show the upcoming meetings. It will show past meetings. So if you're interested in something that maybe happened last year, this is where you could go to look at the agenda, the minutes, but then also as we have the information going forward. But if you click on the date of a meeting, this is what it'll bring up. It'll bring up an agenda here, and each one of those items, I believe, is in blue. I really cannot see that far away right now. You can click on and it will take you to that item. Otherwise, on the top, that has the agenda outline or the agenda packet, so you can view it that way as well. I know a lot of supervisors will have this screen up during the meetings, so then as we discuss each of those topics, it's easy to just click on it instead of trying to scroll through an agenda packet that might be 200, 300 pages long. Or like when we get to the budget meeting, that packet is 1,000 pages long, so that can be a little tricky. And then when you're looking at the minutes, you can click on an item and you can see then what the vote results were and if there was any notes from it as well. So this is the list of our meetings this year. So again, we are going to meet this Thursday. So April and November are the 2 months that we will have 2 meetings. Usually we meet the second Tuesday of the month at 6 p.m. right here in this room. I may or may not petition to see if we can start the August meeting a little earlier. Otherwise, November, we will meet to approve the budget, and then we meet again to adopt the levy. The ordinance is written so that it's the first Thursday before the first Monday, something like that. Basically, it's so that I have to send the apportionment into the state by the 15th of November. So we need to have all of our budget stuff taken care of. So I have time to get that done to the state. All right. If you are not, which is not in there, but if you are not going to be at a meeting, please let myself, the chair, know at least 2 hours before if you can. Obviously, if things happen, that's all right. Send an email, call, text, whatever. So that way we know, especially for committees, and we'll learn, you guys are going to get all that committee stuff on Thursday. But with a lot of our committees, we only have 5 members, and if 2, 3 people are not there, we may not have a quorum, and then it makes things a little tricky on those mornings. Or we're sitting here, not sure if we're gonna have a quorum or not. All right. Oh my gosh, I didn't even look at my thing. But there's some very important information under the elections that I don't want to miss, so we're gonna go through that. So, our office administers elections. This packet, which is, I believe, 20-some pages long, is every single election deadline that we need to follow for this year. So every time that something is due, whether it's for me, the municipalities, when we can get rid of information, everything that we have to do, we follow in that right there. One thing that we like to point out is most people think of elections as election day. You go, you vote, it's done. For us, the spring election that you guys just participated in was April 2nd. You know a little bit more about that because you had to collect signatures. For us, the spring election began in November. We had to have the notice in the paper of when it was, and then you guys collected signatures, and then we had to determine if there was a primary or not. Then for the election ended April 2nd for you guys. A week after that, though, we did the Board of Canvas, and we are still doing the reconciliation from the election, and we have to have that done by May 2nd. So a month after the election is when we're still working on things besides any of the records that we need to retain. We have that. What I'll point out here under the filing deadlines versus ballot delivery, the November election, which is the general election, again for us, which I don't know if I have did it on here. For that election, we actually started before the spring election was done because we had to have one of the notices done and in the paper the week of the spring election. So even though that's so far away, we already are working on that election. The filing deadline's June 1st typically, but this year that's a Saturday. So statute says it would be on Monday, so June 3rd. And after you go through when the challenge deadlines are and when the state will certify, we will hopefully be finished programming, creating all the ballots, then on June 10th to send to the printer. And we have to have all of those ballots back out to the municipalities by June 26th. So that gives the printer 16 days if we have everything done and ready on the 10th, but might not be till the 11th. So 15 days, but then to ship them to us, then we have to sort them and then get them to all of the municipalities. So it's very quick turnaround. Election equipment, this is always a big question, and you guys should be prepared because now that you are on this board, you'll be in the public and people will ask you questions about the election equipment. We have equipment that is from Clear Ballot. We purchased the equipment in 2019, and then the first year we used it was in 2020. We have the Clear Cast, which is the tabulator, which counts all the ballots. The Clear Access, which is the handicap, ADA accessible machine. We think of it as a large pen marking device. It has all kinds of very cool features that it can do. Clear Design is the program that we use to program the machines and create all the ballots. We do all of that in-house. We do not contract or pay for that to be done outside. And then Clear Count is the system that we use as each ballot goes through the tabulator. It takes a image of the front and back, and Clear Count is the system that we can download all those images. So back in April, we had some write-in candidates for different races, and we could go through then and look at every ballot without actually breaking the seals on the ballot bags to look at them, but I could view all of those those images to verify those results that the municipalities had. When we first got the equipment, we did 8 hours of training from the company, and then I turned around and trained over 150 municipal clerks and chief inspectors and poll workers on that equipment. And then we do the programming and ballot creation. Again, I bring props, you guys. This here. This is all the information the municipalities send me, so that way we can program and create the ballots for April. This past April, we had 105 different ballot styles for Chippewa County, based on school districts, county board races. So 105 ballot styles that needed to be kept straight as they were being handed out to voters. It's a lot for us to proof and check and make sure everything is correct with all of those, but we get it done every year. We also, when I first started, when we would order the ballots, we used to look at the historical data, how many people voted here, how many people are registered. It became this very time-consuming thing. I don't care. I will always order either 100% of registered voters or like looking at November. Obviously, everyone votes in November when they should always vote in April. That's a different story. I will order probably 120% of registered voters to anticipate that we'll have a bunch of new voters in November, those turning 18, whatever, because I don't want to run out of ballots. We have ways around it. There's things we can do, but then it's just as a pain. I will always make sure that we have enough ballots at every location. Our role's a little different than the municipal clerk. The municipal clerks really do the day of. Them and the chief inspectors do the day of the election. We do most of the pre-election and then post-election. However, we do most of the data entry for, I think we do 27 out of, maybe it's even more. There's 3 municipalities that do their own data entry into the state voter registration system. Otherwise, we're the ones that enter all that information. When we're looking at training, so last October, I trained over 100 clerks and chief election inspectors getting ready for 2024. And then this past March, I did another training for the April election, because the April election gets a little different when it's the presidential preference. You have to pick a party for the one contest and then the rest of the ballot. So again, trained about 100 municipal clerks and chief inspectors in March. Then this July, I will be traveling. We have 4 different locations set up around the county, and it's going to be open to all clerks, chief inspectors, and poll workers, anticipating we're probably going to be training roughly 200, 250 people in the county, so they're all getting the information. Because the August election also is a little difficult because that is a partisan primary. Pick your party, and then you have to only vote in your party. So we want to do that. Plus, it's a presidential year. All eyes are on Wisconsin. All eyes are on my poll workers. I want to make sure that everyone is prepared. There will be no issues in Chippewa County. So we will take care of that. Public test. We are the only county in the state of Wisconsin that does the public test of the equipment at the county level. All the other counties have the municipal clerks take care of it. We test 27 out of 34 of the municipalities. I do that for 2 reasons. One, I might be a control freak, but 2 is some of our clerks in the past either were waiting to the last minute to do it, or I don't know that they were doing it at all. I need to know that everything is working. I need to know if there's an issue with anything before the day before an election. I can't get something fixed the day before an election. Public test is open to the public, hence the name, public test. We do live stream it on Facebook. And the public test, basically, it's testing every ballot combination you could think of for the election, over votes, blank ballots, making sure the machine is reading everything correctly. But again, we're the only county that does it. Election security, back in March when I did the training, most of that training was on election security. The sheriff and I have discussed doing some other security with training this fall as well. We have received federal grants in the past to do some IT upgrades. The board approved for part of as a CIP for our office to be remodeled back in 2021. And during that remodel, we had a secure election room put in. We also store all of the election equipment for the county here. County board approved and paid for all the election equipment. Again, I needed to make sure I knew where that equipment was, who had access to it. It needs to be safe. There are a few municipalities that have a signed agreement with us, but it limits how many people have access to it. They had to send pictures. I needed to see locks to make sure we knew that it was safe and secure. Prior to that, and again, this is not a reflection on any of our local clerks, but they don't have the same resources. They have town halls that one of the town halls just got running water in a bathroom. So they were storing equipment. Some of them were taking the equipment home. I can't swear before a judge. I don't know who had access to that machine. Who touched it? I don't know. A county, neighboring county, the county clerk went to one of the towns to meet actually the treasurer. She went and used the restroom. There sat one of their pieces of election equipment in the restroom. Well, where's the other piece? The other piece was under the counter, under the sink in the kitchen. Really? You're going to store that piece of equipment under something that can flood? Great idea. So again, my need for control, we have the machines. County Board of Canvass, that's what happens after the election. It's compromise on myself, a Republican, a Democrat, and our minute taker. And basically, we're reviewing the results from the election, comparing for every polling location, the number of ballots that were issued, the tapes, the results tapes, the poll books, making sure every single thing matches up the way it's supposed to match up. That, again, is also open to the public. Nobody ever comes. But it's also live streamed as well on our Facebook page. Post-election activities, the other thing that we do is election audits. It's on random municipalities, and they have to take the ballots, hand count them to compare them to the results tapes. I've been here since 2017. Every time our hand tally of those races have always matched what the tapes have said with the machines. So we've not had any issues there. And then again, the voter participation and election reconciliation. All right, that was fast. I could talk for hours on elections, but I won't. Does anyone have any questions?
Yes,
I suspect that,
go on, yes.
I suspect this year's elections are being contentious.
Probably.
Have you looked at that and possible security issues and stuff?
Yep, so part of our security training is we go through all kinds of different scenarios, what they need to do at the polling location with whether it's an angry voter, whether it's someone rams a car into their polling location. We know the steps that we need to take to make sure that voting can continue, whether it's switching polling locations and all of the things we need to do there. One of the things that we're looking at right now that I'm working with the Sheriff's Department and our Public Health Department is that last November, Wisconsin didn't have an election, but other states did. And some of their election mail was, had fentanyl on it. There were election workers that were being essentially poisoned, OD, because they were exposed to fentanyl. So we're working on getting Narcan at every single one of our polling locations for this fall, and giving information about when we're handling the things that are coming from the public. Probably we should be wearing gloves, maybe masks, doing some of those things. We're doing de-escalation training, kind of looking at all the different sides.
You're ahead of the curve.
I try to be. That's why I still got pens from 2020.
Any more questions? Thank you very much. And just before we move on to the last, I would just like to thank you all for your patience and your endurance. And furthermore, recognize our staff also stayed here the whole time. Sheriff and deputy, I thank them as well. Hopefully, we don't have many more meetings that last this long. I won't say we won't, but for the most part, they don't, but you never know. The breadth of county business is huge, and just to kind of gather it all, it's a lot to observe. With that, I'll move on to item 9. I'll entertain a motion.
Erickson will make the motion.
Supervisor Erickson, motion to adjourn. Do I hear a second? Supervisor Rothmeyer, a second. I will use my privilege to take a voice vote for adjournment. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Is opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I was worried somebody was gonna try to steal it.
I don't even know.